He wanted to find out who my father was, and for the case not to go how I was planning it, I really thought it was going to go different than hope. I would hope he would think about it and this would be in his mind, but I wouldn't actually know what another person is feeling.
Gramir Satterthwaite isn't staying silent anymore. After over a decade of legal battles, sealed documents, and what his attorneys describe as a calculated effort to stall justice, the 31-year-old is escalating his fight against one of the most influential names in the music industry. He's not speaking in metaphors or artistic symbolism. Gramir is claiming, point blank, that Jay-Z is his biological father. Backed by a fresh lawsuit and the haunting legacy of his late mother, Wanda, Gramir, who now goes by RMIR, is demanding answers. And this time, he's not asking. With mounting pressure and a public spotlight he's no longer afraid to stand in, the question Jay-Z has long sidestepped is back on the table. Will he finally take the paternity test?
So at what age then did you start to question, who your parents could be?
Well, I wouldn't say I started to question it, but I said around like 7, maybe 6, and I think it started at 6, and my mom was just telling me that my father wasn't my father, but as a kid, I really didn't look.
This isn't some clout-chasing Twitter stunt. Eric RMIR Reimer has been pursuing this case with quiet determination since 2010. It all began when a Pennsylvania court ruled that the man listed on his birth certificate, his mother Wanda's high school boyfriend, was not his biological father. Under sworn testimony, Wanda revealed that she became pregnant at just 16 years old after a brief encounter with a rising Brooklyn rapper who went by the name Rook. That man, she said, was Sean Carter, now known globally as Jay-Z. At the time of the alleged relationship, Carter was 22, and that one detail, Wanda's age, could be the fracture that cracks everything wide open. New York's age of consent is 17. Wanda was 16. This isn't just an uncomfortable revelation, it's potentially explosive. Reimer's legal team claims Jay-Z's lawyers have spent years dodging a court-mandated DNA test, not because the claim lacks merit, but because the truth could cause irreversible damage to his empire. We're talking about a man who spent decades crafting a public image of brilliance, generosity, and family-first loyalty. But if these allegations hold weight, if he impregnated a minor and spent years using his legal muscle to bury the evidence, then it's not just a scandal, it's criminal adjacency.
Basically, my mom was at a show and she was with a friend, and I guess her and her friend stayed to, after the show, he was doing little signings and little autographs and stuff like that. I guess he wasn't too big, but I guess females, when the show is over, you can sign little autographs and stuff like that, talk to the people who perform. She said she went up there.
Reimer's latest lawsuit doesn't just put Jay-Z in the crosshairs, it takes aim at an entire system. From multiple New Jersey judges to the state's Supreme Court, the filing accuses the legal establishment of playing an active role in burying the case. According to Reimer's team, courts repeatedly sealed records, denied jurisdiction with flimsy reasoning, and ignored blatant falsehoods from Jay-Z's legal camp. One moment in particular stands out. A New Jersey attorney for Jay-Z openly admitted in court that she had misspoken about his property ownership, insisting he didn't own any homes in the state. But public records tell a different story. That's not a clerical error. That's courtroom fraud. And under New Jersey law, that kind of misrepresentation could invalidate every ruling that followed. Yet through it all, Jay-Z has maintained an unwavering silence. No statements, no denials, no DNA test. And in that silence, the rumor mill has gone into overdrive, feeding on speculation, half-truths, and whispers in the dark. Because when the truth stays buried, the gossip machine doesn't stop digging. It devours everything, even itself. 50 Cent has never been one to pass up the chance to throw a grenade. And this time, he did it with a single Instagram post. A photo of Jay-Z's face slapped on a milk carton. The caption, "Anybody seen Jay?" With that one image, 50 blew the lid off a story that Jay-Z had spent years trying to smother beneath layers of legal red tape. But this wasn't just trolling for laughs, it was a shot across the bow. A calculated jab meant to reignite public scrutiny and force the conversation back into the spotlight. And it worked. The post wasn't just viral, it was a siren, a call to arms. And the industry heard it loud and clear.
There's a huge difference in energy. internationally and 50 Cent.
Nicki Minaj didn't waste any time, and she definitely didn't stay quiet. She came out swinging, accusing Jay-Z of weaponizing his influence to sabotage others behind the scenes. Her most explosive claim? That he personally blocked Lil Wayne from performing at the Super Bowl halftime show, all to settle an old score with Young Money. But buried beneath the firestorm of tweets was something far more cutting. Nicki wasn't just calling out business beef. She was making a deeper accusation, that Jay-Z doesn't just abuse power in the boardroom, he manipulates reality itself to maintain control. Still spiteful and evil, she wrote, go be happy in rap business, in women business. When you got the politicians and the police, you good though. The message was raw, emotional, but make no mistake, it was deliberate. Stripped of the cryptic phrasing, the meaning was clear. Jay-Z doesn't just move through the music industry, he moves above it. Translation, the man operates like a shadow government, pulling strings from behind the curtain, untouchable and unchecked. And then came Choke No Joke. The former Rockefeller insider turned outspoken commentator didn't pull any punches. He went public with a bold claim that Jay-Z was hiding his darkest, most damning secret. No names, no details, just a cryptic warning delivered with calculated precision. But the timing? Surgical. Choke's ominous message dropped just as headlines broke about a separate civil lawsuit naming both Jay-Z and Sean Diddy Combs. The accusation? That they assaulted a teenage girl at an after-party back in 2000. While no criminal charges have been filed, the civil complaint is explicit, disturbing, and damning. And there, printed in black and white, Sean Carter's name sits right alongside Diddy's. Not as a bystander, but as a co-defendant.
After they are done with Diddy, Jay-Z is up next to be exposed.
If this all seems separate from the paternity case, think again. Because when Reimer's team filed new court documents just days later, they didn't hold back. Their legal arguments centered on a recurring pattern, one where Sean Carter, better known as Jay-Z, has repeatedly avoided responsibility, not just in their case, but in others too. They alleged a long-standing strategy of manipulation, legal maneuvering, intimidation tactics, and even veiled warnings. In one particularly alarming motion, Reimer claimed that his car was targeted in a drive-by shooting back in 2017, shortly after he raised concerns about judicial misconduct. He also described mysterious vehicles loitering outside his home in the early morning hours, unexplained and unnerving. Reimer believes those warnings weren't random. They were signals from Carter's inner circle. And while Jay-Z has remained publicly silent, the spotlight has started creeping into his household. Beyoncé, typically unshakable, has reportedly drawn her own line in the sand. According to one former Roc Nation executive, she's had enough and allegedly gave Jay a private ultimatum: resolve the chaos before it fractures everything they've built. Whether or not she actually said it, the pressure is impossible to ignore. Their recent appearance at a red carpet premiere didn't feel like a celebration, it felt like crisis control. The smiles were tight, Blue Ivy stayed within arm's reach, and Tina Knowles stood at their side like quiet reinforcement. It was a photo op packed with unspoken tension, an image worth 1,000 headlines.
You can be in love with someone, you can love someone and if you haven't experienced love and you don't understand it and you don't have the tools to move forward, then you're gonna have complications.
And behind all of this, silent but ever present, is Wanda, the woman at the heart of it all. She passed away in 2019, never seeing her son's case through. But her sworn statement remains. Her story never wavered. She was 16, Jay-Z was 22. And if that timeline holds, it changes everything. This isn't just a complicated paternity dispute, it's a potential legal and moral crisis, buried beneath sealed court files, procedural twists, and years of silence. Which leads to one unavoidable question. What is Jay-Z really trying to keep hidden? Is it just the image risk of having a child outside of marriage? Or is this story larger, more complex, more serious than the public has been led to believe? Reimer's legal team believes the answer couldn't be clearer. They say the constant delays, shifting court venues, and vanished jurisdiction aren't coincidences. They're part of a broader effort to avoid one thing above all: a DNA test. But that's only part of it. Because the longer this drags on, the more it looks like something much bigger is at stake. Not just legacy, but power, control, and the ability to shape the narrative before it unravels on its own.
I got older, and my mom just continued to say the same thing, and she never changed the name. Like, she always was staying with the same name. I'm like, well, Mom, why? Like, as I got to 16, 17, I'm like, Mom, you've been saying this since I was a kid. So it's like, now my mom never lied to me, so why not?
The deeper this story goes, the more tangled and troubling it becomes. What began as a quiet paternity case has now spiraled into a web of alleged manipulation, concealed court proceedings, and behind-the-scenes influence that paints a much darker picture. According to newly surfaced legal filings, Reimer's team claims that Jay-Z's legal strategy wasn't just about avoiding a DNA test. It was about controlling the entire courtroom. They alleged that Carter's attorneys worked closely with certain judges and officials to keep the case locked down before it could even see daylight. Years of closed-door hearings. Court orders allegedly built on false claims. Public records show Jay-Z had ties to several New Jersey properties, yet his attorney told the court he didn't. When caught, she brushed it off. I misspoke. But under state law, intentionally misstating key facts in court isn't a minor slip. It's considered fraud. And once fraud enters a case, every ruling that follows is compromised. Reimer and his legal guardian, Dr. Lily Colley, argue the fallout has been massive. Improper sanctions, withheld evidence, sealed motions, one decision after another that they say tilted the scales in Jay-Z's favor. And this wasn't random, they claim. It was deliberate, methodical, and possibly backed by serious influence. The most explosive allegation buried in the recent filings, that liens were quietly placed on Dr. Colley's home after a court ordered her to pay legal fees to Jay-Z. Fees she says she was never even notified about. She only found out years later when she tried to sell the property, by which time tens of thousands of dollars had already been drained. This isn't just about one man's claim of paternity anymore. It's about a system that, if these allegations are true, may have bent itself to protect a billionaire from a single drop of truth.
So we just fought it. Like, it was never to chase anyone or make anyone feel like, we just trying to come up with a plan to take your money. I don't want your money. That's not what I'm here for. I'm really here to just find the truth out. And it seemed like that was just so hard to do in these courts. Like, these courts are not here.
At the core of this entire saga lies one chilling question. Did someone help Sean Carter avoid a paternity test by bending the legal system in his favor? Because if the allegations are true, this goes far beyond avoiding personal responsibility. It's about using wealth and influence to quietly override the rule of law. And the collateral damage? A young man searching for the truth, a mother who passed away without justice, and a public left questioning whether the justice system truly serves everyone or just the most powerful. Reimer didn't mince words. Despite my efforts, Mr. Carter has never once written a letter to me to address these claims, whether to deny or acknowledge paternity, or to explain why his attorneys acted the way they did. It's not just heartbreaking, it's enraging. Because if this can happen to someone like Reimer, how many others have been silenced, steamrolled, or shut out entirely without the benefit of cameras, headlines, or a platform to fight back?
I don't have no felonies. I'm not crazy or none of that. It's like, I just want the truth, and it's so hard to get it from the courts. And it seems like Jay-Z don't want to say anything. So, I don't want to see him go down for something that you could have just got taken care of. That's it.
And now, whether she wants it or not, Beyoncé is being pulled into the undertow. For years, she stood as the image of control, flawless, composed, untouched by the chaos around her. Her silence wasn't just absence, it was strategy. But behind the scenes, sources say the pressure is mounting. Closed-door meetings, late-night calls to crisis teams, a quiet retreat from the spotlight. Jay-Z may be the one facing legal heat, but Beyoncé is the one whose empire is most at risk. Her brand isn't just music, it's motherhood, empowerment, loyalty, legacy. So when whispers surfaced that she pleaded with him to make this go away, for the family's sake, it didn't sound like gossip, it sounded like survival. Let's be clear, she hasn't made a public statement. No interviews, no cryptic Instagram captions, no press releases. But insiders say she's walking a razor-thin line between holding it all together in public and managing a storm in private. And with their 3 children growing up in a world where no secret stays buried for long, the cost of standing by quietly is getting heavier. Jay-Z once said, "My wife and I will have to sit our children down and explain the cruelty and greed of people." But what if the cruelty isn't just coming from outside the walls? What if the hardest story to tell is your own?
And I have to still say allegedly, has done things and allegedly participated in a lot of things that the public would not be happy to know.
The irony couldn't be more stark. The couple once hailed as the embodiment of Black excellence, an aspirational blueprint of success, legacy, and loyalty, is now facing a crisis that feels less like a single accusation and more like the slow, public unraveling of an empire. Jay-Z continues to deny the allegations, labeling them a blackmail attempt. But with every statement, more questions seem to surface. If the claims are truly baseless, why not take the test and put it all to rest? Why spend over a decade avoiding a courtroom, unless what lies on the other side of the truth is more damaging than the speculation? And now, the industry is watching. If Jay-Z is eventually compelled to take a court-ordered paternity test, and it confirms what Wanda testified to under oath, it won't just validate Reimer's claim. It could open the door to legal battles over inheritance, royalty entitlements, and even assets tied to Roc Nation. Suddenly, every polished red carpet moment and every speech about family and legacy feels less like a celebration and more like a high-stakes gamble. Because this isn't just about avoiding a paternity test. It's about whether truth can actually penetrate the barriers built by fame, money, and power. And the shadows are growing longer. Just days before Reimer's latest legal filing, Jay-Z's name surfaced in a completely separate civil complaint, one that shocked even longtime insiders. The lawsuit accuses both Jay-Z and Sean "Diddy" Combs of horrifying misconduct at an after-party in 2000. The complaint alleges a 13-year-old girl was brought to a private gathering and assaulted, while high-profile individuals looked on. Jay-Z has denied any involvement, calling the lawsuit a manipulative and opportunistic ploy. But the timing raised eyebrows and deepened suspicion, because this case didn't just name drop, it peeled back the curtain on a part of the entertainment world many believed had been buried with the early 2000s. Instead, it suggested something far more unsettling, that the very power structures protecting Jay-Z today may be the same ones that shielded him from accountability back then.
But after that major documentary comes out on Diddy, then you're going to start to hear more and more about Jay-Z and his nefarious past.
For years, Jay-Z and Diddy were seen as hip-hop's ultimate power duo. Moguls who rose from street hustle to corporate clout, transforming the culture while raking in billions. They weren't just collaborators, they were symbols of the genre's golden age of ambition turned empire. But now, with Diddy facing a cascade of lawsuits and a sweeping federal investigation involving accusations ranging from coercion to trafficking, that once celebrated bond is being re-examined under a very different light. To be clear, there's no public evidence directly linking Jay-Z to the most serious allegations against Combs, but legal analysts and insiders can't ignore the uncomfortable overlap, shared circles, mutual events, and matching timelines that place both men in close proximity during key moments. One such moment, the VMA after-party referenced in Jane Doe's lawsuit, which reportedly took place the same year Jay-Z was expanding his Rockefeller empire, launching clothing lines and courting corporate deals. The question hangs heavy. Was his meteoric rise built alongside or atop a culture that rewarded silence and protected those in power? The pressure isn't just legal, it's reputational. Rumors are spreading, slowly but steadily, that Jay-Z may have known more than he ever acknowledged. Industry veterans, often guarded, are beginning to speak in vague but telling terms, hinting at non-disclosure agreements, off-the-record settlements, and quiet resolutions that never saw a courtroom. None of these stories have been formally confirmed, but their sudden resurgence in the wake of Diddy's unraveling has reignited old concerns about how much the industry tolerated and how many powerful men were insulated by its code of silence. And if these separate lawsuits begin to converge through shared witnesses, overlapping dates, or consistent accounts, the impact on Jay-Z's legacy won't just be personal. It could be permanent.
I don't think he's aware of his presentation. You know, there's an adjustment. There's something that's happening that's different about him and the way people.
This isn't just about a scandal. It's about a pattern. A pattern of powerful men circling the same spaces, protecting each other, and navigating around legal consequences that would crush anyone without fame or fortune. It's about how influence becomes armor, how proximity to power creates an unspoken network of protection, and how, time and again, the system seems to bend, not for justice, but for those at the top. The paternity case alone might have been dismissed as a private dispute. The VMA allegations, distant and unconfirmed. But together, they paint a more unsettling picture, one of an entire system designed to protect billionaires, even as the people beneath them female plaintiffs, long-silenced accusers, are buried under legal loopholes and sealed files. If these lawsuits are the bricks, then the pattern they form may reveal the true architecture beneath Jay-Z's empire. A fortress built not just on success, but on silence, influence, and insulation. And for fans, this is a twist few saw coming. The man who once stood atop Grammy stages, preaching about generational wealth and legacy, may now be standing on the brink of a reputational freefall. Each new court filing, each sealed document, each carefully crafted no comment, chips away at the myth he so carefully built. Because if the threads between his past and Diddy's unfolding legal storm start to tie together, we may all have to confront a far more uncomfortable truth. How many icons were built on foundations of stories we were never supposed to hear?
Nationally.
Tim, you're aware of international. You are like flex here. I've always said that. I always felt like that, right?
Where does it go from here? The court system is under scrutiny, the allegations are piling up, and the public isn't looking away. Jay-Z may be used to winning behind closed doors, but this battle is unfolding in real time, across timelines, comment sections, and headlines. And for Reimer, this isn't just about a name. It's about the fight to be seen, to be heard, in a world where those without fame or fortune are often pushed aside. If even a fraction of these claims hold weight, we're left with a question that cuts deep. What becomes of a legacy built, in part, on silencing the one person who simply wanted to know the truth about where he came from? Because if this secret finally sees daylight, it won't just shift how we see Jay-Z. It could reshape everything tied to his name. The brand, the music, the empire. Even Beyoncé, long seen as untouchable, may find her image pulled into the fallout. So now, we turn the question to you. If a single DNA test has the power to shake the throne, will it ever be allowed to happen? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and until next time, stay sharp, stay curious, and remember, in the land of legends, even kings can fall.